In this video, I'm going to talk about the system that Uganda uses for evaluating members of parliament. The system looks at how many times member of parliament has spoken. I will also compare it with the international or global standard, and you see the difference. In this video, majorly, I'm looking at why evaluating members of parliament basing on the number of times they've spoken is a very ineffective method. In this digital world, you cannot be lying to the people. In the 21st century, where information is too easy to get, we are like in a global village. To me, the method that Uganda is using to evaluate members of parliament, that is the number of times they have spoken, is not only a useless method, but as well a method that can lead to corruption. The first reason is quality versus quantity. Speaking several times does not translate to speaking the right thing or speaking with content. Some members of parliament speak several times, but with little quality in their speech. Some of them, they speak without making research. They speak just to show that they're speaking because they want to appear on the scorecard. While other members of parliament may speak little or less, but yet the quality of their presentation is high and very impactful. Another reason is the diverse roles. Members of parliament are laced with powers, different roles. So these diverse roles may include being a committee, being a minister, or another thing. And then some other members of parliament may decide to perform very well in the background negotiations, which are very crucial but less visible to the society. The society may not know how they are contributing in the committee and in their ministerial positions, like how do they present in the cabinet. So these diverse roles are most at times, like for Uganda case, there's no update for evaluating people in the committee. There's no metrics to evaluate the ministers with their diverse roles. And also in parliament, it's not necessarily that when you speak it will be done. The background negotiations at times play a bigger role more than just speaking. It is very crucial, and yet on the sad side, it is less. The third reason why I say the metrics of evaluating MPs basing on the number of times they've spoken is not effective. The third reason is subject matter expertise. There are people who are experts in certain field. For example, if you're a member of parliament, is a doctor, maybe is a civil rights activist, maybe is a chemical engineer, various fields, maybe professionally is a teacher and the rest. They may choose to speak only on those domains where they are experts and leave the non-domains for other people to speak. This is more effective than speaking on all topics, than speaking to have several times you have spoken on the scorecard. Now, this one is really a very serious point, because when you are an expert in a field, you can give the right advice to that. like, for example, somebody who has not done a scientific course, like maybe medical or maybe agricultural or engineer, like that, it will be very difficult for that person to present technical part of that subject matter. So some members of parliament choose to speak only on areas which they are expertised in. The fourth reason which you are most likely to disagree is, you're most likely to disagree with this reason, which is number 4, is strategic silence. Some members of parliament may intentionally choose not to speak for these reasons: to gather information, listen carefully, and avoid unnecessary confrontations. Yes, these are common in a circumstance where people might be playing house politics. People might be playing politics against a member of parliament. That when the person speaks, let's go and challenge like this. Let's make sure the person is challenged under all cost. And with parliament, when the majority is against you, you become a problem. And also, for other reasons, a member of parliament may choose to strategically remain silent. The fifth one is collaborative effort. Many success, many achievements in parliament comes from collaborative effort. So evaluating members of parliament basing on only their speeches, individual speeches, will ignore the collective effort that they were involved with other people as a team. So collaborative effort is also another key in achieving success for a constituent that a member of parliament comes from. Now, when you only focus at the individual number of times spoken, you will ignore the collaborative effort that a member of parliament have presented. Number 6 that I have for you is procedural constraints. There is a serious procedural constraint. For example, procedural steps in parliament can hinder a member of parliament from speaking. And also party politics. For example, in NRM, the party whips, the time limit, and also a lot of internal issues such as instructions from the party members may also hinder a member of parliament from speaking. Like if you can look at procedural constraint, for example, if in Uganda parliament, it is, I don't mean to, this is my personal opinion, it's like a speaker is a dictator. Because when the speaker does not point you while raising your hand, you will not speak. It is different from most international standards, which is also applied in Uganda's campus politics from the universities. In the universities, we used to raise our hands. If you raise your hand 3 times, there's what is called point of privilege. That one, you get up straight. Point of privilege is not in the house of Uganda. It's not in Uganda parliament. Point of privilege is more widely used worldwide, but it's not in Uganda. So you realize that is just an example of procedural constraints. The rest need a lot of research that you can also do on your own to find out. So this matter can hinder someone from speaking. Now, if you evaluate people from the number of times they have spoken, yet other people, after their party told them, you should not do like this, you should not say this, you should not say this, means you're knocking out some people for no reason. Actually, you are destroying somebody or discrediting someone for completely no reason. Number 7 is public engagement. MPs get involved or engage with the members of their constituent through a lot of forms, through different methods, through public forums, through debates, through community dialogue, through community meetings, and several other methods, and also even some of them help charitable activities in their community through their own money. Now, the third fact about Uganda's role of member of parliament is those are not recognized in the roles of member of parliament. And by the way, internationally, they're done everywhere. But if you don't do, you will get problems. The voters will deal with you. So if you stick only to the policy making, to speaking in parliament, which is always not even effective, because the question is, what are you talking about? Tax increase? Have you talked about the increase of salary of teachers? How effective has it been? In your discussion, have you talked about eradicating Karimojong cattle rustlers to completely make them live a different life? Have you talked about that one? Have you talked about the time and again taxations? Have you done your research before talking that it is in line with the interest of the public, or even if it's not in the interest of the public, is it suitable for the public? Because at times the public may not be interested in something which they deserve, but do they deserve those fiscal policies? What are you talking about? What were you talking about? So back to the public engagement, the things that the member of parliament does in their constituency direct are not reflected on the metrics of the number of times that you have spoken. That makes it light like water. The eighth one is different communication styles. Not all members of parliament are verbose. Some of them, they prefer to use written communication, lobbying, and also those underground lobbying capacity, the connection, to make sure that ends meet in their constituents. So that is the eighth one, and it is the last one on list. But also, we are going to look at, in this same video, the next phase is the eighth global standard for assessing members of parliament, which is not being used. So, evaluating members of parliament basing on the number of times they speak will undervalue their diverse contributions to the parliament and also to the constituencies. Now, looking at the global metrics of measuring how MPs are progressing or succeeding, there are a number of different metrics depending on the country, but these are the global metrics which are used elsewhere, which is very different from Uganda, which they just count the number of times you have spoken. So either the people who are doing that metrics are lazy, or there's some other things behind it. Because when you just evaluate the number of times they've spoken, that is a direct corruption. And I think the Speaker of Parliament, or even the members of Parliament themselves, need to look at this. A post from August the 10th in 2010 by New Vision revealed the same issue. Just speaking how many times? I've spoken 10 times, I've spoken 200 times, like that. The question is, what have you spoken? What were the results? Was it adopted? You see? So, it will undermine the efforts, the greater efforts of the members of parliament. For example, I want to give this example. The best MP in speaking always is Olanya Gilbert. But do you know that speaking is just a small part of the success of Olanya Gilbert? The greater percentage of the success of Olanya Gilbert is in the community. And that's why Olanya Gilbert remains the most outstanding MP in Acholi. Now let's go to Agago district. There's a Minister of State, that is Minister Corbitres. I'm giving an example in Acholi because I commonly know them. Now, these ministers in the community have done a lot lobbying against Karimojong to make sure that there's peace when there is famine, when there is what developmental things, because people want developmental things. She has done a lot. Now, do you want to just undervalue that person simply because of the number of times they've spoken? Well, of course, there are people who speak while also doing real work. Like the example I gave Olanya Gilbert, that is kudos to him and other members of parliament across the country. But there are some people who want to use the number of times they've spoken, since it is a loophole of the system designed by those people evaluating the members of parliament, as a scapegoat to working hard for the constituents. So let's get to see the global metrics or the global standard. We got 8. Now, allow me to read some of these global metrics. We have number 1 is legislative performance, attendance and participation in parliamentary sessions and committee meetings, number of bills proposed, sponsored and passed, then also quality and relevance of contributions to the debate. So number 1 is legislative performance. Now, I know someone might have been saying, yes, that is the number of time they've spoken. No. You see, they have gone ahead to say bills passed, the quality of your representation. You see? So it just goes beyond how many times you've spoken. That is a global standard, and that is the first global standard on our list that Uganda needs to consider if MPs are to be evaluated. In any case, if they are to continue with the same method, then there is no reason for evaluating members of parliament, because that is just corruption, and it can even cripple the mindset of the society. You see, the second one on the list again is constituency service. That is responsiveness to constituent issues and concerns, accessibility and availability to meet with constituents, and then lastly, effective advocacy for constituency needs and interest. Look at this: responsiveness, accessibility to meet the constituent member, and also effectiveness for advocacy, availability. Now, unfortunately, the roles of members of parliament in Uganda does not cover these ones properly. So it is like a trick against the public that you don't know, or you don't see the real roles of member of parliament. What is this big over 45 million or whatever for nothing, for no reason, and plus other allowances? What is it for? So these are global standards which are not being used in Uganda that we need to look at, we need to consider. Well, number 3 is here. I will not talk much on it. Is transparency and accountability. Under transparency and accountability, we have the first one is disclosure of financial interest and potential conflicts of interest. Then also number 2 is adherence to parliamentary codes of conduct and ethics. Then lastly, regular reporting on activities and achievements to the constituents. You see? Still, you see that just number of times you've spoken, it does not match with global standard. You see, you need to disclose your financial interest and potential conflict of interest. You see, where you feel like maybe you own a company and you are advocating for tax reforms to favor that company, and you don't even reveal it to the house, and there they count you that you have spoken. Maybe you have spoken 5 times on that same issue, and you have not even declared your interest. It's like the District Service Commission, who interview their own relatives without declaring their interest, and yet by public standing order they are supposed to declare their interest. You see how our Uganda is being destroyed, and then people go to blame the president, and yet the society are not taking up this thing as a serious thing. They are not speaking about it. How do you go to the president? Is like the judges. When you don't take issues to judiciary to report issues to court, they cannot come and jail somebody. It's even like police. in most cases they will not come because these are civic issues, not criminal. So these are the things that we need to always start focusing on. The fourth international standard or global standard of evaluating members of parliament is public engagement. The ingredients of public engagement includes communication with the public through various channels, for example, social media, town hall meetings, and so on. Then the second one is encouragement of civic participation and feedback. Then the third one is educational efforts about legislative processes and decisions. Have you done training? Have you done? Because members of parliament, they just say, if you're senior 6, you go. So even if you have not done training or what, have you tried, let me do some certificate to improve the quality of my presentation before you start counting the number of times I've spoken. So the fifth one is policy impact. The ingredients of policy impact as a metric globally used to measure the performance of members of parliament include contribution to significant policy changes or reforms, engagement in policy development and research, effectiveness in addressing national and local issues through legislation. You see, which still, when you look at just talking and count the number of your spoken, the sixth metrics is collaboration and diplomacy. This includes the ability to cooperate with other members of parliament, the ability to go for international diplomatic trips and still come back successful, and also represent the interest of the country abroad. Another global metric for evaluating MPs is the ethics standard. So the ethical conduct of a member of parliament, including the protection of human rights, avoiding corruption, and the rest, are also one of the metrics which are used to evaluate members of parliament globally. Fulfillment of roles, that is the last one, which is the eighth one. So fulfillment of roles is also key. Roles such as committee, being a minister, and all other roles. So these are the things that we need to be well acquainted of, to be aware of, so that we are not mistaken by just the number of times MP speaks. Thank you very much.